Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Pokemon Tier List presented by the Game House. I'm Rob and we are here today to determine which of these Gen 1 Pokemon have the best chance to get a new Mega Form in Pokemon Legends ZA. We're going to be doing this tier list a little bit differently than we normally do, as there are a lot more Pokemon to go over than our normal lists would contain. So buckle up, there's going to be a lot of explanation, and some of the Pokemon will kind of just skip over, to be honest with you. They may not need much of an explanation, but we are going to be doing this today, so make sure that you like and subscribe so that you don't miss out on any of the other Pokemon content that we have coming out on a daily basis. Also, let us know in the comments section below which Pokemon you think from Gen 1 are most likely to get into that Arceus tier, as that's our S tier, Arceus, and Garbodor, as always, is our lowest tier, our garbage tier. So there are only a few Pokemon that made it into the Arceus tier, ones that we think are very likely, almost extremely likely to make it in, or at least they have the best chance. And as always, we will start with the C tier list. Just kidding, we're going to start actually in the already have mega tier list. I apologize, I forgot about that one, but look, all these Pokemon below: Venusaur, Charizard, Blastoise, Beedrill, Pidgeot, Alakazam, Slowbro, Gengar, Kangaskhan, Pinsir, Gyarados, Aerodactyl, and Mewtwo all have forms. Charizard and Mewtwo, conveniently enough, right on, on top of each other, they have 2 forms. We're taking them out of this list because there's a very low chance that any of these are going to get another new Mega Form in Pokemon Legends ZA. But I would be remiss if I didn't say that there wasn't a chance that Charizard, Venusaur, and Blastoise could all get new ones, with Charizard getting a Z form, because it already has X and Y. Even Mewtwo potentially could. Gengar, honestly, wouldn't be a huge surprise. Even maybe Gyarados. So, some of the more our popular Pokemon definitely could be that, and could have the opportunity to get a new one. It would be a big surprise, though, with all the Pokemon. There have been 3 generations of new Pokemon that have come out just since the last, Mega Forms were actually available, Mega Evolutions. So, yeah, and then along with this, we are going to actually be starting at the Garbodor tier list this time, just because, again, this is such a big list, we'll work our way up. So, starting with Garbodor tier list, we have, Jinx, Poliwrath, the 3 legendary birds, Chansey Pharaoh, Muck, Weezing, Electrode, Persian, Wigglytuff, Magneton, Tangela, Seadra, Farfetch'd, Tentacruel, Onix, sorry, brain is completely, blanking on these, Lickitung, Mr. Mime, Scyther, and Porygon. These are the Pokemon that we think have the least, or are the least likely to get a new Mega Form. With the birds, obviously they had the Galarian forms recently. Would be a really big surprise to see them get much more attention after that for a while. Chansey has Blissey. I just don't see, there are a couple Pokemon like that, Chansey that has a new evolution, Tangela that has a new evolution, Seadra, Farfetch'd, right? Onix, Lickitung, Mr. Mime, Scyther, and Porygon, and Magneton, they all have extra evolutions. Now, those evolutions could potentially get a Mega Evolution or a Mega Form, but I don't think that these guys have a shot. Jinx is just a Pokemon that I think the Pokemon Company really wants us to forget about, to be honest with you. And Poliwrath's in that list too. Sorry, has Politoed. So I don't really know that Jinx is going to get one. Fearow as well is just a Pokemon that seemingly is completely forgotten about, way overshadowed by Pidgeot. Would be a really big surprise to see it get in there. Muck and Weezing already have new, forms, right? They have the Alolan and Galar forms. Specifically, Electrode also has a Hisuian form, so I just don't think it's going to get much more attention than that. Persian, for some reason, just continues to be overshadowed by Meowth, right? Because of the anime. So it just feels like Persian isn't going to really get one. Plus, you've got, the Galarian Meowth, right, and Berserker and all that stuff. So like I don't, these Pokemon just don't feel very likely to be on that list. They are of, the tier list of Pokemon that are on this list, all the Gen 1 final evolutions, by the way, for the most part. That'll, I guess, be a hint for later. These ones just don't seem like they're going to get a Mega Evolution. I could be wrong. We could be wrong here at the Game House, and that could end up happening, but it just feels very unlikely with these Pokemon, and because of that, they are in the Garbodor tier list. Next, we are going to have the C tier list. It's going to be Arcanine, Amistar, Kabutops, Rhydon, Cloyster, Golbat, Primeape, Raticate, Venomoth, Execute, Seaking, Rapidash, Golem, Dugtrio, Electabuzz, Magmar, and Ditto. Now, these Pokemon, there's a slight chance. There's a very slight chance, but there are more of these Pokemon, again, because they've really given Gen 1 a lot of love that have extra forms, right? So you already have, the Hisuian Arcanine and Growlithe. You have Rhyperior for Rhydon. You have Crobat for, the Golbat. The most recent edition of Annihilate. You have the Alolan Raticate. You have Alolan Executor. You have the Galarian Rapidash, Alolan Golem, Alolan Dugtrio, even Wugtrio, right, from the new games. You have Electivire, you have Magmortar. They are all Pokemon that definitely have those extra forms, but for some reason, there's just a chance that they could get something added. I think Arcanine specifically is such a popular Pokemon that, there's never a no chance for this Pokemon to get a new evolution or a new form of any kind. Again, it's just so iconic. It's so beloved by so many people. It just would be, it's the goodest boy, right? Like, it would just be such a surprise to see it be completely in that Garbodor tier list, in that unlikely chance. Amistar feels very unlikely, but it feels like they would do Kabutops, and so if they did that, then maybe they would do Amistar, but I don't know. These two seem very unlikely. I would love to see a new form of Kabutops specifically, just because it's Scythe Arms. I feel like they could do something really cool with that. Rhydon as well is a Pokemon that wouldn't surprise me at all, just because, it got Rhyperior. It is a popular Rock-type Pokemon, but I just don't know that it's going to get there. Cloyster is a Pokemon that is seemingly forgotten about as well, and it would be a real surprise to see them kind of put that in there. You could put Seaking into that similar conversation, although I think Cloyster's a lot more memorable than Seaking. Goldeen, because of the anime, has a lot more attention, I would say, but Seaking is, it's a goofy Pokemon. I don't really know that I see it getting much love here. And then Ditto is the other one that I really wanted to point out. For some reason, there's a weird part of me and again, the team here at Game House that feels like maybe Ditto could get a new Mega Evolution, some new form in the future. It is such a unique Pokemon. It would be surprising to see it get a Mega form or a Mega Evolution, whatever you want to refer to it as, but it's not completely out of the realm of possibility. And between it and Arcanine, now where it's listed on this list right now does not necessarily indicate the likelihood of it getting one. It's just that it's in C tier, not if it's at the top or the bottom. I kind of just, was throwing these up there as I was thinking about them as the team, was going over the ratings for it and everything. And so I just think that, Ditto just doesn't seem to be completely out of contention, but it would be a surprise. Now we head to one of the smaller lists here. We're going to go into the B tier, and these Pokemon, there's definitely a shot. They are not completely out of contention for it, and we'll explain why a little bit more, for each of these Pokemon as we go through. You're going to start with Hitmonlee, Hitmonchan, Tauros, Clefable, Victory Bell, Arbok, Parasect, Hypno, Sandslash, Ninetales, and Marowak. Now, similarly, there are only a few Pokemon on this specific tier lists that have, different forms, Alolan Sandslash, Alolan Ninetales, and Alolan Marowak, if I remember correctly. I think it's Alolan. I don't think it's Galar. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Alolan. I'm almost 100% sure it's Alolan. Brain's farting. Anyways, so I'll lead off with these three. Look, they're pretty much the same as Arcanine. If Arcanine didn't get literally a Hisuian form in Legends Arceus, I think Arcanine would be much higher. These three, while they did get Alolan forms, it's been a little bit longer since they got new forms. They are still, pretty, popular Pokemon. I think especially Ninetales is a more popular Pokemon, but their new forms aren't in a Legends game already. Those four are the ones with forms that I felt like had the best chance. Arcanine especially, makes a lot of sense, but it has to be in C tier because of the Legends, Arceus already. These other three, they could be, Cubone's a popular Pokemon. Marowak, that Alolan Marowak is really cool, the Fire Ghost typing. Wouldn't be a surprise to see Marowak maybe get some love here. Ninetales, again, there's just so much to do with that Pokemon, with its Ninetales, so it makes it very popular. And then Sandslash, for some reason, always seems to rank decently on the popularity, tier lists that we see, so we didn't want to completely rule it out. Moving up the list, Hypno here makes a little bit of sense. This feels like another Pokemon that they are trying to kind of forget about. A lot of the other, Gengar, like Slowbro, Alakazam, all the other Psychic Pokemon have gotten forms, from the early generations of Pokemon. I know that, Gengar obviously switched its typing, but, at the beginning, it was, kind of clumped into that group. And I don't know what else to say other than Hypno needs a shot at some point. I don't know when they're going to give it to it because it seems like a creepy, kind of stalker type, person Pokemon that a lot of people are uncomfortable with. But giving it a new, Mega Evolution would maybe help it quite a bit. Parasect is the same way, although I think a lot of people actually like Parasect much more than Hypno. I've seen a lot of different iterations for people where they give it a Mega Evolution, and I don't think that it would be the worst idea to give Parasect one. It was in Legends Arceus, and I think it even had a spot where it was an Alpha Pokemon, so I don't know. I mean, I guess my point is the 3D model is already there. Why not potentially use it? I wouldn't completely rule out a Parasect Mega Evolution. Arbok feels like it's got a pretty decent chance. This Pokemon is a very cool Pokemon, the big cobra with its fanned neck. There's a lot that they can do with this design, and with Arbok and Ekans, being so popular from the anime, where Jesse had one for so long, you just can't rule it out whatsoever. I think it would be a pretty decent chance that it's got to be next on the list of Gen 1 Pokemon to either get some new form, some new evolution, something new to it. It's not the top of the list, obviously, but it is one that should be getting considered. Victory Bell you can put in that same kind of category. Again, James had one on the anime, so it's known for people who have watched that, especially now that they have it on YouTube for people to watch very easily. And this Pokemon could definitely use a new evolution, to be honest with you. I think it would help it quite a bit, not just statistically, but looks-wise. I think they could maybe give it a more modern evolution that people would really vibe with. So I wouldn't totally, count that one out either. Clefable, a popular Pokemon with Clefairy. We've seen a lot of love given to Jigglypuff. Again, I put these kind of, these two pink Pokemon, Clefairy and Clefable, Jigglypuff, and Wigglytuff kind of in that same category to a certain extent. I guess I didn't really talk about the fact that I don't think Wigglytuff is going to get anything. I'll track back here to the fact that Wigglytuff is probably not going to get anything because Jigglypuff just got a new form in Scarlet and Violet, and they completely left out Wigglytuff. So I think Jigglypuff continues to just outperform and not really give Wigglytuff any room to kind of be anything other than just another evolution. Clefairy's almost done the same with Clefable, but I think, there is certainly a chance, especially with fairy typing being so popular, for X and Y, obviously, when it initially came out, and now with us heading back there with Legends ZA, it seems like it's definitely within the realm of possibility that Clefable could get there. Tauros is another Pokemon that could really need a little bit of love. I know that it just got the new Paldean forms, but a Mega Evolution, some sort of evolution for this Pokemon would not be out of the question whatsoever. It's a cool Pokemon. A lot of people really like it, at least in terms of Gen 1 Pokemon. It can be forgettable at times for sure, but it would not... It did pretty well with the new forms. It wouldn't be a total surprise out of Gen 1 Pokemon, at least, to see it get a Mega Evolution. There are still hundreds, potentially, of other Pokemon in the other generations that could be higher than a Tauros, to be completely honest with you. But in this grouping, B tier makes sense for it. The last few here, Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan, they are going to be together. If they're going to do one, and even Hitmontop, to be honest with you, that's the reason why they're in B tier, though. I think if they could do it individually, it wouldn't. These two would easily be moved up into the A. I don't know that they'd be moved up into the Arceus tier list, but they're really cool fighting Pokemon that have been popular since the first games came out. They are probably now forgotten a little bit more by the newer generation, and I think that a Mega Evolution for either of these Pokemon, hopefully both, if they were to do it, would be really, really good for them. Tyrogue is still a Pokemon that I think a lot of people really like in terms of the baby form, the possibility of it getting to either of the three, Hitmontop, Hitmonlee, or Hitmonchan. All of those are, a really cool option, and I think to have a Mega Evolution for any of the three of them would potentially move that one into a much different stratosphere, and I think they want to keep them as even as possible. So if they were to give it to one of them, they'd have to give it to all three. And with rumors of it being somewhere between, 18 and 20-ish new Mega Evolutions, it'd be really hard to see them giving it to all three of them of that grouping. And that's why they are down here in the B tier list. We're going up to A, and there are a lot more Pokemon up here that I think a lot of people are going to be upset about. But it's ones that we have to talk. They're ones that we have to talk about here. We'll start at the bottom. Kingler feels like it needs something. It got a cool Gigantamax form, so did Machamp as well, but a Mega Evolution would do so much for Kingler. You could add a new typing to it as well. You can make it a lot stronger. It's an already really cool crab-looking Pokemon, but it could use a little bit more. You could make the crown accentuated a little bit more on its head. It barely made it into the B or into the A tier list. It almost was down at B, but it got to stay up here in A because, well, it feels like a Pokemon that could use a little bit more love. Machamp, obviously, again, got a Gigantamax form, but a Mega Evolution of Machamp would not be out of the realm of possibility whatsoever. This Pokemon is, a very interesting, fun fighting type. You see Machops in so many of the games. There are a lot of people that enjoy it. You see Machamp in, other games, right? You had it in Pokken Tournament as well. So it's definitely got its fan base without a doubt. And there is a lot more that they could do. They could literally add 2 more arms and make it, a 6-armed Pokemon, which I think a lot of people would find to be very interesting. There's a lot that they could do with this Pokemon. And I think taking it completely out of the Mega Evolution conversation would be a disservice. So, while it's not the most likely one, it's not in the Arceus tier list, it is just barely an A. Dewgong is one that was very quickly or closely considered to be in the Arceus tier list. This Pokemon needs help in the worst way, and a Mega Form would help immensely, right? There are some Mega Forms I think that people kind of maybe forget about at different points, but Dewgong would definitely get some new life, and it's a Pokemon in Gen 1 that is often forgotten about. Funny enough, I was perusing Reddit literally right before I did this, and one of the posts was something like, what is the most forgettable Gen 1 Pokemon? And Dewgong and Seal are like very much near the top of that. I think that this Pokemon could get a lot more attention. They could take away the water typing and just make it an ice Pokemon, or they could make it ice and something else. Which could, really, really set it off and allow it to be not only potentially competitively viable, but also just a more interesting Pokemon to have on your team. Dodrio feels like it is way overdue for something. I was playing Pokemon Emerald Sea Glass earlier in 2024 now. It's 2025 as recording of this video, but Dodrio in that game was given the ground typing, which along with flying, which made it so much stronger. And it could really use that. I don't know if they give it like a fourth head and make it like a Hydra type situation where they make it a dragon flying Pokemon. That would be a mega. That'd be wild, really cool, honestly, but they could do something with it. It's a really unique and interesting design by itself. It wouldn't be totally out of the realm of possibility to see it get a mega form. Vileplume, while you have Blossom for sure, I think that sometimes Blossom overshadows Vileplume, which is another great Pokemon design that could just use a little bit more love. There are, a lot of Pokemon on this list that get a lot of attention. I mean, Slowbro and Slowpoke have like, a Mega form, a Galarian form, an extra evolution with Slowking. Like, they get a ton of love. And then there are Pokemon like Vileplume that, yes, they were able to get Blossom, many, many, many years ago with Gen 2, but have been since forgotten about. But it's still a Pokemon that you see in a lot of different games. Oddish is a very known Pokemon within the Pokemon world, and it would just be a shame to not see it get some more love. And I think that Mega Evolution would be a good way for it to happen. Now, we're going to save the Eevees and the Evolutions for the last part of this tier list. So we're going to move on here to Dragonite. Dragonite was so close to going into Arceus tier. It maybe should have gone into Arceus tier, but it's already a really great Pokemon on its own. It could get a little help statistically. It could get a little help, potentially taking away the flying type and just making a dragon or adding something else to it. Even like maybe like a less friendly looking version of Dragonite, I think would be really welcomed by a lot of Pokemon fans. But Dragonite is just such an iconic Pokemon. And it feels like it's in a lot of games and it doesn't necessarily need the Mega form for it to kind of up its popularity. It feels like it would be, there are a lot of other Pokemon even on this list that I think could be higher than it, but because it is also so popular, you can't take it out of the conversation for a Mega form. So much so that it worked its way into A tier and almost into Arceus tier, but because it ultimately came down to the fact that it's probably okay on its own. So we're just going to kind of keep it here for now in the A tier and then maybe be wrong once it gets into the Arceus tier or it gets a Mega form announced later on this year. Next is Snorlax. Never, ever, ever take Snorlax out of the conversation for anything. They could add so many things to it. It's still like Dragonite where it doesn't necessarily need another form. Obviously, it got its Gigantamax form, which I think was really cool with it. But this Pokemon's already super popular. I mean, it was in Pokemon Unite as one of the original Pokemon. It's like the main character for Pokemon Sleep, obviously, which is great. There's just so much, but it hasn't really gotten anything since it got Munchlax, I believe, back in Generation 4. So there's not been much more that's been added to this Pokemon. A new Mega form would be really interesting. It'd be kind of funny to see it go from being, this big, tubby, Pokemon to like maybe like a ripped fighting normal type Pokemon, something like that. That would be wild. I would love to see something like that. But there are a lot of options for Snorlax. It's a great designed Pokemon. And it should not be overlooked and should be given consideration. If Gen 1's going to get more Mega forms, Snorlax should be near the top of that list. Pikachu is Pikachu, guys. It's Pikachu, right? Like, it's similar to what we just saw with Jigglypuff, where Jigglypuff, got its Screaming Tail or Screaming Tail, I think. Yeah, Screaming Tail, something like that, is what it's called for the special form of Scarlet and Violet. Pikachu overshadows Raichu. It just does. And because of that, it's deserved, to be honest. I know a lot of people may not want to, but it's the mascot Pokemon. There's no chance that it couldn't get a Mega form. It's already got a Gigantamax form as well, but I know they try not to mess with the formula, right, in terms of making Pikachu look too much different But there's just something in me and the crew that feel like Pikachu is always going to be in consideration for a new form and for a mega form. It just doesn't feel like it's like a guaranteed this time, so we're sticking it here in the A tier. Butterfree feels like, again, a Pokemon that was very close to getting into the Arceus tier. These top 4 Pokemon for sure were very close to getting into the Arceus tier. We saw Beedrill get a lot of love. It had an awesome form that was added. Again, Butterfree got a cool Gigantamax form, but that's really about it. It should get a little bit more love, right? I mean, it's got probably one of the most emotional Pokemon episodes of all time named after it. It is a very, I think, unique and fun Pokemon that's, great to catch early, and it could use some stat buffs, and a Mega Form, I think, would make it to where it could be a Pokemon that you actually keep on your team throughout the game instead of replacing after you've caught your Caterpie, got it to learn, Confusion, a couple other maybe, cool flying and bug type moves, and then you kind of move on. A Mega Form would help that a lot. Mew, similarly to Mewtwo, very popular. No shot that it's not at least being considered for a Mega Form. It doesn't feel like it's going to happen this time, but eventually it's going to stop being completely overshadowed by Mewtwo. Mewtwo has 2 forms. Or 2 Mega Evolutions. Why can't Mew get 1 Mega Evolution? Really, why not? Even if the theory of the Ditto theory is true, and it has some weird connection to it. Doesn't matter. Mew deserves a little bit more love, and giving it a Mega Form or Mega Evolution would be fantastic. 2 more Pokemon here in the A tier, and then we'll head to the Eevees. Starmie is an awesome Pokemon that feels like it's totally forgotten about all the time. It was one of the best Pokemon in Red, Blue, and Yellow. The fact that, it can learn so many different moves. It feels like it's time for this Pokemon to become a true water psychic Pokemon. I don't know if maybe they made that addition later on, but I can't even remember the last time I saw Staryu and Starmie as a real option in games. I don't think that they're in Scarlet and Violet, and I don't really remember them being available in Sword and Shield either. Maybe they're in Sun and Moon and I forgot. There's a better chance considering, islands, right? But this Pokemon needs some love. It needs some love in the worst sort of way, and giving it a Mega Form really would accentuate and allow it to take the next step, really, to becoming, another popular Pokemon. And in the Gen 1 group of Pokemon that are available, this one is just too iconic in terms of it being on Misty's team, but along with that, being such a powerful Pokemon in early generations, it needs to get some more love. Golduck, same way. Psyduck literally just got added to Pokemon Unite in the last year, I would say. And it doesn't even evolve into Golduck. It's literally just Psyduck. But Golduck by itself is such a cool Pokemon. It's a really good Pokemon. Another one that could use the water psychic typing, to be honest with you. Which it may have now. I can't remember. I feel like Psyduck's still just water, even though it learns a bunch of psychic moves. So, give it a Mega Form. If you're not going to actually update it to be water psychic, that's fine. Keep it pure water. But then in its Mega Form, give it a Water Psychic typing. I've seen a lot of different designs for this Pokemon as a Mega. It feels like the community really wants this one as well. Why not just give it to it? Alright, here's the big ones. Eevee, Vaporeon, Jolteon, and Flareon. Oh boy, where do we start here? Eevee, it's apparently the year of Eeveelutions, I believe is what it's called, for Pokemon. So it either means that we are probably going to get a new Eeveelution in Pokemon Legends Arceus, which apparently, if you believe the Terra leaks, if you see what they posted, there was a flying type Eeveelution being considered for Sun and Moon, and it never got added. It was apparently the form was too close to ones that other fans had done, and they decided to scrap it. Very weird decision, but whatever. If this is the year of Eeveelutions, if we are going back to the last time that we got a new Eeveelution, which was Sylveon, back with X and Y, could we finally get a new one? Could we get a Poison type one, a Steel type one, a Dragon type Eeveelution? I think that those are all possibilities. but you can't count out Mega Forms. Eevee already got a Gigantamax form, which was really huge. Obviously, it has the most evolution possibilities of all Pokemon of all time. That'll probably never change. But if they were to give it to just Eevee, they could probably be okay with just making it like Mega Eevee, which would basically be like, you know, the normal form Eevee. Or they could even give it a normal evolution and then give that a Mega form. That wouldn't be a big surprise. But it feels like if they were to just give it to Vaporeon or Jolteon or Flareon, that then they'd have to give it to the rest of them. And for some reason, there's a part of me personally, I'm speaking on this one, that feels like they might just give a Mega Evolution to all of them. Like, how hype would it be for them to, you know, go out and decide that all 8 Eeveelutions are going to get a Mega form? That'd be amazing. People would lose their mind. It would be so awesome. It would give some of these Pokemon a lot more competitive viability. Like, you know, Pokemon like Flareon or Eeveelutions like Flareon specifically wouldn't just be almost completely, feels like, forgotten about at different points. There's just a lot of reasons to think that if they were to do this, maybe they wouldn't consider it part of like the 18 to 20 that we're hearing about. There, it just feels like there's no way that they would, similarly to Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee, there's no way that they would just use 8 of the 18 slots. It feels like they would have 18 Pokemon that are getting Mega Evolutions, and then, surprise, here's 8 more Eeveelutions with Mega Forms as well. Or 9 if they decide to add a new Mega Form. So, or a new Eeveelution. So, these Pokemon are so freaking popular, there's just no way you can ever count them out. Eevee has the best likelihood of actually getting a Mega Form, which is weird to say considering it's the pre-evolution, but it does have the best likelihood of doing it. They are consistently pushing Eevee out there, right? Let's Go Pikachu got a Let's Go Eevee. You know, again, it's the year of Eeveelutions. This Pokemon they want to make viable by itself so badly that giving it a Mega Form would really, really up it and allow it to be, I think, even more beloved. So those are our A-tier Pokemon. Love to hear what you guys think about it. We're going to head now, though, into the Arceus tier, the very last tier. And there are only 4 Pokemon in this tier, and you may have already guessed them. But they are Raichu, Nidoqueen, Nidoking, and Lapras. We're going to just start with Raichu, and then go to Lapras, and then we're going to give the ones that I think are the most likely to get Mega Forms. So, Raichu, similarly to how we just talked about Pikachu, Raichu needs love in the worst way. This Pokemon, yes, it has its Alolan form. There's no doubt about it, and that helped a lot. But giving it a Mega Form would really allow it to not stand toe-to-toe with Pikachu, but almost allow for it to be its own thing. I've seen people talking about making it like its Gorochu form, which I think they were going to make a 3rd evolution that looked like it was like a fire electric Pokemon, which would be crazy. They could do that and make this Pokemon just wild red and, you know, look really kind of mean, honestly. But Raichu just deserves a little bit more. The Alolan form is great. It helps it a lot. It was really close to being moved down into just the A tier with Pikachu, but we felt like something with Pikachu or Raichu is very likely to happen, and it feels like Raichu this time is going to get just a small leg up over Pikachu. This one is probably going to be one of the most controversial picks here. I think there are ones in A that you could very easily argue deserve a chance over Raichu, but it's hard not to want to, you know, discuss Raichu and have it get its time to shine with a new generation of fans. Lapras. Lapras has a Gigantamax form as well, but this Pokemon still needs more love. It's an adorable Pokemon. People love it. Again, Ash wrote on it, you know, all over the Orange Islands. Like, it's an iconic Pokemon that a lot of people have always thought would get maybe a baby form, or a baby evolution, excuse me, which would then allow its stats to get better. It's already a pretty strong Pokemon, but giving it a Mega Form, there's so many crazy cool looks that it could have. Again, I've seen on like DeviantArt, Reddit, wherever, like so many cool options for a Mega Form for Lapras that I wouldn't be surprised to see it get one at all. It feels like it's got a really good shot this time around to get some love if any of the Gen 1 Pokemon are going to. Again, keep in mind that just because Raichu and Lapras are in the Arceus tier for Gen 1 of this series that we're going to do, which I probably should have said in the beginning, I guess I'll say it now, we are going to do a series for every generation on these tier lists leading up to what we anticipate will end up being the release of Pokemon Legends Arceus. Whether or not we'll do like one a month or one every other week, we'll have to see. To be honest with you, it may not be in that normal sort of a cadence, but sorry, quick ADHD moment. Moving back to Lapras. Lapras, again, deserves a lot of love. It's a great Pokemon. It could use a little bit more statistically, and it just feels like because of how popular it is, because of how, it's in Pokemon Unite now as well, like, it's getting more and more love from fans. And it feels like it's time for it to get a new Mega Evolution, like a true new form. And I think that this would be a way for it to do that. The last two on this list are Nidoqueen and Nidoking. Just the king and queen, right, of Pokemon Gen 1. And great Pokemon already on their own. Ground and poison typing, fantastic, without a doubt. They can learn so many different moves through TMs, all of that kind of stuff. But yet, still statistically, it feels like they need maybe a little bit more of a focus. And I think that a Mega Evolution would do that. If there were a grouping of Pokemon to get more love, it would be the two of them. And to see them kind of evolve into their next form, where it would be, a crown for both of them, capes maybe, something like that, would be great for these two Pokemon. They are already loved. They are Pokemon that are used on a regular basis. And they're ones that we really just still haven't seen, though, very often in a while in terms of Pokemon games. So these are the two top Pokemon that I think and that my team felt as well have the best chance of Gen 1 to get a Mega Evolution. What do you guys think? Do you think we're crazy? Do you think that this is, completely out of left field? There's no shot any of these are getting one. Let us know what you think in the comments section below. But that is going to wrap it up for us on this Pokemon tier list. Like we said, we anticipate doing Gen 2 and all the way up to Gen 9, for which Pokemon we think are most likely to get new Mega Evolutions in Pokemon Legends ZA. Hopefully we'll be able to do these quick enough before some of them start getting revealed. And we start, hearing rumors. There was even a very recent rumor that actually, funny enough, had Nidoqueen and Nidoking out there as options. And they claimed that they were coming for sure to Pokemon Legends ZA as Mega Forms. So if that rumor ends up being substantiated, then that would be fantastic for this tier list, at least, or at least two of the Pokemon on this tier list. But like I said, that's going to wrap it up for us on this Pokemon tier list. So with that, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.